Hi, welcome back to my channel where we explore science, philosophy, and theology, and we try to do it with some very careful thinking. Today I want to ask a question that matters just as much in politics as it does in knowledge, faith, and daily life. Does one side ever have the whole truth? Now, we often hear claims that make it sound like one side has all the answers and the other side is completely wrong. But is that really the case? For most questions, intellectual, cultural, political, philosophical, even religious, no single perspective captures the whole truth. Now, that doesn't mean that all views are equally valid, but it does mean humility is essential. Let's start with science because it gives us a clear example. Even in our most trusted theories like gravity or the germ theory, they are always open to revision. Not because scientists can't decide, but because the world is incredibly complex. Think about how our understanding of the universe has changed. Newton's physics seemed complete for centuries, until Einstein's relativity revealed deeper layers. And now quantum mechanics challenges us even further. Each new theory builds on what came before rather than throwing it out entirely. So what you rarely see in headlines is the process itself. Scientific breakthroughs happen through debate, review, and competing ideas. You know, scientists argue, sometimes passionately, before reaching a consensus. Treating science as if it's one side versus another misses this nuance. Truth in science is gradual, communal, and provisional. Theology works in a similar way, though in a different domain. Even within a single religious tradition like evangelical Christianity, scholars debate the core questions. Is the Bible inspired word for word or in a more nuanced sense? How do we reconcile God's sovereignty with human free will? Did God intend for Genesis to be read as a science and history textbook, metaphorically? Or is it about God's relationship to the world and his purposes? Now, these conversations are ongoing and often vigorous. However, most people only hear what sounds like settled conclusions from their pastor or priest. But just know that behind the scenes is a vigorous debate and discussion shaped by history, tradition, reason, and community. Recognizing this brings humility and can deepen faith, reminding us that understanding God is never a finished task. So here's a classic joke. If you put two philosophers in a room, you'll get at least three opinions. Philosophy thrives on dialogue and critique, from the Greeks debating justice and virtue to modern discussions about consciousness and morality. Disagreement drives understanding. Is morality based on God, reason, evolution? Is the mind just the brain or something beyond it? Now, these aren't simple questions, but wrestling with opposing ideas sharpens our thinking and clarifies our concepts. Philosophy teaches careful thinking and that conclusions are often tentative. We see this play out in politics too. In the United States, things are pretty polarized right now. Each side often thinks it has the truth and the whole truth and paints the other side as dangerously wrong. But here's the thing, both sides are actually holding on to something valuable. The left tends to emphasize equality and justice. The right leans into freedom and responsibility. Now, you know, both of these matter. If equality is pushed without freedom, it can slide into tyranny. And if freedom is pursued without justice, it can spin into chaos. The truth is we need both for a society to stay healthy. This brings us to critical thinking. It's not cynicism or doubting just for the sake of it. Critical thinking is the pause, the willingness to question assumptions and recognize the limits of what we know. When we hear an argument about science or politics or religion, ask yourself, am I assuming my side has all the truth and the other side has none? In a world of instant reactions and social media, it's easy to jump to conclusions. A brief pause allows us to consider that truth might exist on both sides. This pause is the foundation of wisdom. It allows dialogue, learning, and growth. Science, philosophy, and theology may seem different, but they share a common way of pursuing truth. None move in a straight line, and none claim to fully capture reality. Science refines evidence. Think of Newton to Einstein to quantum theory. Philosophy refines arguments. Plato asks, "What is justice?" and Aristotle responds. And today's philosophers continue the debate. Theology wrestles with revelation, tradition, and reason over generations. Augustine, Aquinas, Luther, Wesley. In all these areas, truth comes gradually through dialogue and sometimes painfully. Disagreement isn't a flaw, it's the engine of progress. If this is true in these disciplines, it applies to politics, culture, and daily life also. So, what is the deeper reason no side has the whole truth? I propose it's because reality itself is astonishingly complex. Nature is interconnected. Human society is layered. Big questions about meaning, morality, and God are deep and multifaceted. Disagreement reflects that complexity. Reality is like an orchestra. No single instrument gives the full symphony. Each perspective contributes a vital voice. By listening to multiple perspectives, we get closer to a more complete understanding. Appreciating complexity is a form of wisdom. Now, I want to make this exceedingly clear. I'm not proposing that all views are equal. Some are definitely better supported than others. Science relies on evidence and logic. Philosophy relies on reason and coherence. Theology relies on careful study and faithful reflection. Take science. The evidence for climate change is drawn from decades of careful measurement, modeling, and observation. By contrast, denial that relies on a handful of anecdotes or selective data simply doesn't carry the same weight. Careful, cumulative science is far more credible than dismissive shortcuts. The same goes for history. Accounts that are corroborated by multiple independent sources, documents and artifacts, eyewitness testimony, give us a trustworthy picture of the past. Whereas conspiracy theories often depend on speculation or hidden knowledge that no one can actually verify. One approach builds confidence and the other breeds confusion. In philosophy, arguments that affirm an objective basis for morality are more stable than the claim that everything is relative. If morality is nothing but opinion, then justice, rights, even human dignity become fragile. But if morality is grounded in something real and enduring, we have a firm foundation for ethical life. And in theology, interpretations that take into account the whole sweep of Scripture and the wisdom of the historic church are stronger than fringe readings that rest on a few isolated verses. Now, tradition doesn't answer every question, but it provides guardrails against distortions and helps us see the bigger picture. So critical thinking balances humility with discernment, openness to dialogue while weighing evidence and reasoning. It guards against both arrogance and gullibility. Absolutism is dangerous. Claiming our side has all truth and the other none shuts down listening. It reduces complex reality to simple slogans. This happens in politics, even in science and religion. Critical thinking requires humility. No one has complete knowledge, but discernment reminds us that some positions are closer to truth. Engaging reality carefully, weighing perspectives, and listening well is the path to wisdom. So here's a challenge. The next time you encounter a view you strongly disagree with, maybe a scientific claim you doubt, a political opinion you find extreme, or a moral perspective you just don't share, pause for a moment and ask, could there be something valuable in this that I haven't noticed? Being intellectually humble doesn't mean giving up your convictions. It's a sign of wisdom. It opens the door to sharper thinking, more meaningful conversations, and a richer understanding of the world around us. Thanks for watching. If you found this helpful, subscribe for more content at the intersection of science, philosophy, and theology. And leave a comment. What is one truth you've learned from the other side? And remember, keep asking good questions.